Hi, everyone. On time and on budget. Today, I introduce the 2025 Fall Economic Statement, a plan to protect Ontario. Today's document further supports the government's plan to protect Ontario by building a more competitive, resilient, and self-reliant economy, and by investing in infrastructure, supporting workers, improving services, and making life more affordable. Since we were first elected, this government and this Premier have turned our province's course towards one of success, growth, and prosperity. We have seen our economy climb to new heights with a GDP of over $1.2 trillion, some $350 billion more than it was in 2018. We have provided confidence and certainty to markets, investors, and job creators at untold speed, adding close to 1 million more jobs and mobilizing the greatest workforce that Canada has to offer, which is freeing up room to reinvest in the priorities that drive long-term prosperity, like infrastructure, tax relief, and our world-class skilled workforce. And for the first time in nearly 2 decades, Ontario received 2 credit rating upgrades from S&P and Morningstar DBRS. All 4 major rating agencies now affirm Ontario's strong AA rating, a clear signal that investors and markets have confidence in this province's fiscal and economic direction. Our finances are in the best shape they've been in over a decade. And thanks to that strong fiscal foundation we've built, we are in a strong position to act for Ontario. Earlier this year, we announced nearly $30 billion in relief and supports for tariff-impacted businesses to unleash our economy. And that money is flowing to impacted workers and businesses right now. So with our actions today, along with the initiatives I announced today, our mission is clear: to strengthen our economy, to drive a vision, and most importantly, to protect Ontario, families, workers, businesses, and its future. We know the challenges will come, but we also know Ontarians and Canadians are up to those challenges. Now more than ever, we need to unleash our economy and make Ontario the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. Thank you, and with that, I'd be happy to take some questions.
We will now take time for reporter questions. Please identify yourself by name and outlet, and as a reminder, 1 question, 1 follow-up.
Minister Richard Southard, 680 News Radio. Why in a budget that projects such stubbornly high unemployment for so many years is there nothing new to help the more than 800,000 unemployed Ontarians or for those who may lose their jobs going forward?
Well, first off, I'll start by saying we acted very early to support the workers, and then I'll get into some of the things that are new and some of the recent updates. $30 billion of tariff supports, $9 billion in deferrals, $2 billion of WSIB rebates that are flowing to businesses so they can stay open, they can meet payroll and compete. So we acted early. We've increased the funding for the Protect Ontario Fund, where the $1 billion of which is going to companies like Algoma so they can support the steel workers up in the north and continue producing great Ontario-made steel. We've continued to do more work on the Ontario Together Fund, which was $50 million. So we just announced another $100 million today. So we continue to, not only we acted early, that money is flowing, the money that even just recently we made that Algoma announcement and others is continuing to create jobs. And, you know, the other thing that we're going to continue to do and are doing is making sure we reskill and retrain people, because then I can tell you there's a lot of employers that want to hire a lot of employees, and we're going to be there to support the workers.
With LCBO and alcohol tax revenue both down, can we conclusively say that the opening up of the alcohol market has come at a financial loss to Ontarians?
Well, there's no change to the numbers that I reported 5 months ago, the $1.8 billion for the LCBO, which then rises over time. There'll be the exclusive wholesaler across the province. That's new. And look, modernization of our alcohol system has gone way better than even I expected, and I had very high expectations. You know, 6,000 more places that you can buy beer, wine, ready to drink. Convenience stores tell us that their revenues are up 12%, on long weekends 33%. So more choice and convenience. So we're very pleased with the direction. And don't forget, the LCBO, we've cut taxes, alcohol taxes, we've cut fees, and markups so that more money goes into the pockets of consumers and businesses in the alcohol sector.
Hi, Tina Yazdani with City News. Minister, of the $5 billion set aside back in August to support businesses hit by tariffs, only $100 million has been doled out so far. Why has the rollout of these funds been so slow?
Well, it hasn't been slow at all. In fact, we opened up the application process, and of course a number of companies have applied, and we've been in the process of adjudicating those applications, and we'll be having some announcements real soon. And that's what it's there for, to provide companies that are really impacted by the 50% tariff on steel and aluminum, the tariffs on the auto sector. So that's one fund that we're using to support workers, to support businesses. I mentioned the Ontario Together Fund. What that is a fund that says you can reshore employees or transition to new markets, and we're providing support. That was $50 million, $48 million of which has been allocated, so we increased it because demand was so good, another $100 million. So we acted early, and we continue to act.
Okay, and why doesn't this update put a cost on the 401 tunnel feasibility study? Has any money gone to that study yet?
So we have awarded a contract. We've gone through the RFP, and MTO, I believe, very shortly will outline the winning contract and the amounts.
Hi, Minister. Alison Jones with the Canadian Press. Oh my God, this is a terribly placed light. Hi. I know you talked already in response to Richard's first question about what your government has already done to help workers, but I'm hoping you can look ahead instead of looking back. The Fez paints kind of a grim picture for the province's labor market in the next couple of years. What do you see coming? How do you see that playing out for workers?
Well, you know, there is a lot of uncertainty out there, and I've talked to a lot of workers who are concerned, and that's why some of the announcements we just made in the last couple of weeks are giving hope to many workers. The $1 billion investment in the Darlington small modular reactor, that's creating 18,000 construction jobs for the 4 small modular reactors. And by the way, those jobs are right now. They're already shovels in the ground. People are working on the site, and they're building those small modular reactors as we speak. Just last week, an announcement to advance infrastructure and road building, shovels in the ground for the far north with the Webequie First Nation. So there's a lot of jobs being created right now. We got to continue to reskill, retrain workers, and make sure that we have a vision. And my remarks today in the House really told the story about how we acted early, we're acting now, and we have a bold vision for the future.
Okay, and the document also says that you're going to be repealing a couple sections of the Cap and Trade Cancellation Act, including the requirement to set greenhouse gas reduction targets and to have a climate plan. Have we just dropped all pretense of fighting climate change?
Just the opposite. So earlier this week, the federal government dropped their targets. And as Prime Minister Carney has said, it's not about targets, it's about results. We're leading the country in GHG emissions reductions. 67% of the reductions are right in Canada, are right here in Ontario. Our nuclear fleet that we're refurbishing, the new SMRs, the new generation, will generate more clean energy. And I may remind everyone that we've issued $22.5 billion of green bonds. These are raising money to finance green transactions in transportation, energy, and so forth. That's more than every single province and the federal government combined. So we're leading the way in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We're leading the country. We're doing it in a very aggressive way, and we'll continue to get results as opposed to just set targets.
Hi, Minister. It's Colin DeMello from Global News. The fall economic statement says that in 2026, job creation will be at about 35,000 jobs. That's a fairly low number. I'm curious as to what you think is driving that. You might say Trump's tariffs. I get that. But why are businesses in Ontario projected to create so few jobs in 2026?
So we just reflect the private sector forecast. But, you know, you take that information, you have to have a plan. And what we tabled back, we ran on a plan back in February. got elected as a majority. We tabled our vision for the province, not just for the following year, but for the next decade with our budget in May of 2025, and we continue to execute against that plan. You know, I'll highlight something else. We just announced the first project under our one project, one permit process, 1P1P, for a new lithium mine up in just north of Red Lake. That's the first transaction we've approved, PAK for Frontier Lithium. So, you know, these are the types of things. We had a plan, we're executing against that plan, and we're getting the conditions in place so that actually people are being employed right now, and they'll continue to be employed for the future.
Okay. On the Protect Ontario Fund, as we've established, $100 million has gone out to Algoma so far, and I know that you're saying that there will be more announcements to come. Is the scope of it too small, too narrow, though? Small businesses, as an example, could perhaps benefit from some kind of provincial fund. Is the scope too narrow for the Protect Ontario Fund, and are you looking at perhaps widening it so more businesses can take part?
I think it's a fair question, and what we're seeing, we wanted to make sure that we had facilities in place so that companies that were really impacted by the Section 232 tariffs, meaning a 50% tariff on steel, the 35% or 25% on the auto sector, 50% on aluminum, through no fault of their own, that we would be there to support them. It's not the only place that they can draw down funds. The federal government has a lot of programs. We also have a lot of other programs. So we're there to support them. Some companies are drawing down on those funds, and we'll continue to support them.
Minister Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail, just wanted to pick up on what you said there. I'm a bit confused. You seem to suggest that the federal government has dropped its climate change targets. Can you explain what you're talking about there? Because I'm looking at them here on my phone, and we signed this treaty in Paris, so we haven't dropped out of that, right? There still are climate change targets.
No.
What are you doing that's different today with this legislation?
That's fair. You know, what I'm saying is that what I heard the Prime Minister say, it's not about targets, it's about results, and that's what I'm referring to. And what we've said is we're going to continue to drive forward to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And look, I'm a big supporter of nation building and some of the projects. I feel strongly that we have to get not just to build our nuclear, but we also need to continue to lean into our conventional oil and gas, build the infrastructure, get it to new markets. If you think about, in my mind, you know, Germany, who came to us in bend and knee race when Russia cut them off of gas, and we said there's no plan for LNG. Well, the world is taking LNG. We need to get there. India is 70+% on coal. China is over 60%. The U.S. 16%. Germany and Japan are still on coal. We have the resources. We got to get them to market. So it's not either or. We are going to fight to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, but we need to have a complete strategy. And I think this next decade and beyond is Ontario's and is Canada's.
Just to clarify, because I haven't been able to go through the legislation that's referred to here, but are you saying that you're not going to report on Ontario's progress on reducing emissions? That requirement is now gone, and if that's the case, I mean, how can you say that, given what the world's facing?
Well, look, I'd refer you to the Minister of Environment for more details on that. But look, we are not relenting in our path to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have a massive renovation and renewable plan. We have investing in hydro, investing in nuclear. We've also conservation plan, I think, of over $10 billion over the next 10 years to conserve energy. So we're not going to relent, but we're gonna focus on outcomes and not targets.
Hi, Minister. Émilie Pelletier with Le Droit. I hear you talking about it's not about targets, it's about results. If there's no value in having targets for greenhouse gas emissions, why do we find value in reporting on targets on housing, on jobs, on anything, any other kinds of targets that the province sets?
Well, like I said, I'll let the Minister of Environment go deeper with you on some of the technical aspects of that. But I'm going to fundamentally say that what's really, really important here is that we continue to focus on a clean economy, use the strengths that we have in Ontario. As I said, we lead the country in emissions, and I'll refer you to the minister.
So all targets are good except for gas emissions.
I didn't say that. You did. I said what we are going to do is make sure we continue down a path to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that commitment hasn't wavered. And I'll come back to the green bonds, $22.5 billion. That's the proof that we're committed.
So the cap and trade piece bill in 2018 was implemented by this government. Why was it good to have targets in 2018, but it's not good anymore?
Well, I think we're going to still continue the path to make sure that we reduce those emissions, and I'll again refer you to the minister.
Hi, Minister. Rob Ferguson, Toronto Star. Just back on this greenhouse gas target. If you don't set targets and report on what you're achieving, how is there any accountability?
I'm going to say exactly what I just said, that, you know, what the world is saying is you've got to have a plan. We have a plan in Ontario. We have a plan in Canada. We are committed to reducing those greenhouse gas emissions. We are 67%, I think, of the Canadian reduction, and we're going to keep going.
Yeah, but you come from the business world where companies set earnings guidance and expectations, and you worked for a bond rating service that rates debt and whatnot. So why a different standard for climate than what you're used to in the business world? You guys always talk about the business world.
Look, I've outlined the plan, which includes a very robust energy plan. We're committed to doing everything it takes to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but we're not going to be bound by targets. We're going to continue going. As I said, 67% is a pretty good number. We have to pivot a little bit in the interim through gas to get to 100% green electricity. Right now, I think we're around 90%, so we're doing pretty well.
Hello, Mr. Jean-Loup Doudard with Radio-Canada. I heard you in French during the speech very well. I'm going to try to make you flex that again here. Dans votre budget, Monsieur le Ministre, très peu de nouvelles mesures pour les particuliers. Monsieur, Madame, tout le monde, pas de réduction d'impôts pour les particuliers, alors que le coût de la vie augmente toujours. Qu'est-ce que vous avez à dire à Monsieur et Madame tout le monde aujourd'hui?
You know, I'll start in English. We have tax measures. We've lowered taxes, I think, more than anybody in Canada, including $11.5 billion for businesses that I highlight in the fall economic statement, another $11.7 billion in the for consumers, and of course the HST, the 8% relief for first-time home buyers of new builds. That's a significant tax relief, $130,000 up to $130,000 on a $1 million home, and so we're always finding ways to put money back into businesses and people's pockets. And so that measure, which we had announced, is in the fall economic statement. En français, toujours, nous sommes ciblés vers des impôts pour baisser les impôts, et on va continuer dans cette manière. Et l'énonce économique pour les acheteurs des maisons, c'est une grande chose pour eux, pour les jeunes familles qui ont le rêve pour acheter une maison. On a fait ça dans cette publication aujourd'hui.
Thank you, appreciate that. And on a lighter note, I noticed in the budget the creation of a new medal for police dogs and horses. My question is why, and did you have any particular canine in mind when you put that in there?
No, I think we just got to advance, as someone said, as a finance minister, you have to have one hand on your heart and another hand on your wallet. And these are the types of things that we're very proud to support.
Is there a cost to it?
De minimis.
Hey, Minister, we saw some new long-term care bed numbers in the fall economic statement today. About 7,000 beds built, 18,000 more in progress. But that's well short of the $58,000 goal that the province is trying to achieve by 2028. Can we still achieve that goal?
Well, absolutely. And, I'm glad you highlighted that because that's a significant advancement of long-term care beds built or upgraded or being constructed or approved. Through the Building Ontario Fund, we just announced in the last few months an additional 1,000 beds that are going to be constructed. So using another means of financing and bringing in partners to finance more long-term care beds. And if I think about Pickering, you know, there were no beds built from 2011 to 2018, or in Ajax, not a single bed built from 2011 to 2018. During COVID, we built a new facility in Ajax called Ajax Pickering Lake Ridge Gardens, 320 new beds. In North Pickering, we're almost completed building another 300 beds. That's 620 new beds, and for all of Ontario, from 2011 to 2018, the province built 611 beds. So we've made more investments and completed more beds in Pickering and Ajax in our term in office than the previous government did in 7 years. So I think, yes, we're going to not waver from achieving that goal.
And you've mentioned a couple times today about the recent $40 million investment in Webequie First Nation to help, in part, speed up the building of the road to the Ring of Fire. They, of course, need a whole bunch of other things that you guys are stepping up to help give them. Is there any other money set aside for other First Nations that are nearby who may or may not be in favor of the road, but all of them are in desperate need of pretty much every type of infrastructure needed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of conversations happening with First Nations all the time. Of course, Mr. Rickford, the Premier, and many others, Mr. Lecce, are having those consultations. And look, we're there to support our First Nations. We're there to work with our Indigenous partners. That's why we increased the Indigenous Opportunities Fund by $2 billion, from $1 billion to $3 billion. That's why we are continuing to invest in infrastructure and supports in areas like Webequie First Nation. And as we have deals to announce, we'll continue to let you know, of course. But I'm very encouraged by that big step forward with the Webequie Nation.
Good afternoon, Minister. Steve Cornwall here from the Trillium. Just a question about the Ontario electricity rebate. It was announced earlier this month that it's going from 13% to 23% of electricity costs. And I noted there was in the fall economic statement there was a $2 billion average year over year that was listed as the cost for this rebate. Can you clarify that? Will the increase that's been presented, is that going to mean that the government is investing more than $2 billion a year in this rebate?
Well, you know, we have in our budget, we put the line item for the Ontario electricity rebate. It's about $6 billion in total, plus or minus. It depends on the price of electricity, et cetera. So the $2 billion you're referring to is a component of that. So we wanted to make sure you had that number. And of course, when I do Q3 and the budget shortly thereafter, we'll update those numbers. But because that happened after when we closed the books on September 30th, you'll have to wait till the budget to get the final numbers. You know, and it depends on a lot of factors, not least of which is, excuse me, the cost of electricity. But it should be in the order of magnitude of similar previous years.
Just on a different note of targets, obviously I think the $1.5 million new homes pledge for 2030 kind of last appeared in the 2024 budget and the fall economic statement for that year. Can you tell us why it was not included in this one, and what are your thoughts on on kind of the plan for housing here, because we're obviously 10%
Sorry, could
lower.
you clarify that first part? You're talking about the housing starts and what was not included?
So obviously the pledge for 1.5 million new homes by 2031 was not. It was in the 2024 fiscal documents, but not in this year's. Can you tell us why it's no longer kind of
that I guess is part of focusing on delivering more homes. If I think about. And I think the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing has addressed that we're going to continue to try to build as many homes. I think about today's announcement that we pre-announced earlier last week about encouraging the dream of home ownership for young families is going to help move a lot of building of new homes in Ontario. I think about the $1.6 billion increase that we announced in August, so 75 days ago. To put more money into the Housing Infrastructure Fund, now $4 billion. I think about the HST that we lobbied the federal government to cut for purpose-built rentals. We take 8% of that, they take 5%. And they, a year later, agreed, which is triggered a lot of purpose-built rentals being built. And I think about the $1.2 billion Building Faster Fund. I just gave, along with the Minister of Housing, I guess the Minister of Housing gave the check to Pickering. They hit their targets for 2024. They exceeded it by 174%. So we have a lot of measures to encourage more building. We're going to continue to work with the sector, and we're going to build as many homes as we can.
This will be the last reporter question.
Hi, Minister. It's Lorenda Redicop with CBC. If you could just clarify then, so is that commitment to 1.5 million homes over 10 years, is that gone now?
Not that I'm aware. My understanding it's still there, and the minister.
Okay.
The
So if I could
minister
just
is
have-
responsible for that.
Okay.
No, so I guess you know, the minister has communicated that that the target there, he's softened, you know, said that that target is no longer a hard target, but that we're going to continue to move forward on building as many homes as we can.
Okay. I'm thinking back to last year with your last fall economic statement, and there was this big shiny thing with the $200 checks. With this one, the Liberals referred to it as teeny tiny tinkering, I believe. What do you see as the biggest change that you're bringing in here?
Well, I think a continuation of the plan that we ran on in February, got elected with a majority. We tabled our big, bold vision for the province in the budget in May, and we're executing against that plan. I've updated on a number of things that have happened. The billion-dollar investment into Darlington, which I think is very significant, but supporting companies like Algoma, excuse me, and continuing to support workers and businesses, retrain and reskill, and that will continue. And we're not going to slow down. We feel strongly that we'll continue to support our energy sector and be a powerhouse in the world as we are for energy. Critical minerals, we're advancing significant investments. The processing fund of $500 million, that's advancing. The AI and technology, we are leaning into that through Venture Ontario, through Invest Ontario. And we're going to continue to build at an unprecedented pace infrastructure right across the province. So I think what I'd like to end on is just to say, you know, we maintained our commitment to balance, but at the same time, our commitment to grow the economy, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in workers, and continue to provide world-class services and invest in social infrastructure. So, you know, we'll continue to update. We'll have our Q3 update early in the new year, and followed by my budget for our 2026 budget. And I look forward to updating you even more then. So thank you very much, everyone.